Hello everyone, my name is Steph Macleod and welcome to another episode of This Is My Story, This Is My Song. In this podcast, I'll be interviewing some amazing people about life, ministry, songs and music, and what it means to serve the church, especially during a season of lockdown and isolation. In this episode, I'm joined by my good friend, Northern Ireland's very own Nathan Jess. Not only is Nathan a wonderful worship leader, a multi-talented musician and producer, he's also one of the hardest working songwriters I've ever met or had the privilege of writing with. So come and join us as we discuss growing up with music, life on the road as a travelling musician, the dangers of being a yes man, some songwriting tips, and the gifts that come from collaborative songwriting. I could honestly chat with Nathan for days, so I know you're going to love this. Sit back, relax, and I'll catch you at the end. Hello, Nathan Jess. How's it going? It's lovely to have you on the podcast. Welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. Good to virtually be with you.
Good to virtually be with you. That's a good one, man. It's kind of like May the 4th be with you, but it's not the 4th, is it? It's May the 12th. But it's good to be with you. I think the last trip I had away last year
Was
with you, yeah.
Oh wow.
Aye, and it was good times, man. It was just writing the songs, some of the songs, and finishing up the songs for my Oh Perfect Father EP, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Got some good times. We were staying up at what part of Northern Ireland were we staying in?
So you stayed at my in-laws' lovely loft, didn't you? That's where you stayed, yeah.
Oh, it was lovely, man.
Yeah. So it's in Guildford, so it's like County Armagh, apple country, where they all grow apples in Northern Ireland.
Amazing. Honestly, I don't know what it is, but whenever I come to Northern Ireland, it feels like such a sanctuary for me. You know, it's very spiritually fulfilling, and I really enjoy coming over in the summer to Open Skies and being with our friends, and you know, we meet a lot of our friends from America as well, and from around the UK and Europe as well. They come from all over to for the weekend of worship there. It's just a lovely, wonderful
vibe.
Yeah,
I think Scottish and Irish people always feel that going either direction. There's quite a close, probably just like even sense of humour and stuff. You sort of feel at home.
We certainly like the same food, I think, although you are into
I don't do deep fried Mars bars here though.
Oh
so.
Man, that's for the tourists, honestly. It's
I've never had one though. Have you tried it?
I think I did it once, man, and it was disgusting. Absolutely. I don't know why. Somebody must have thought, there's a deep fryer.
Yeah. And there's a Mars bar.
There's a Mars bar. Just madness. Anyway, yeah. It's lovely to see you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you.
I really miss you, man. You know what I mean? I'm really looking forward to everything opening up properly so we can hang out. I know we're planning on writing it again in the future. It's always an honour.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be good to talk today about some of the things that you do in your life. You're a worship leader, a songwriter, a producer, a multi-talented musician. We've got quite a lot in common in there. And, you know, for myself, I was a fan of your music before we even met, you know, which we'll get to before, and then just a chance we'd have it. Then we managed to get together, we became friends, we've toured and all that kind of stuff. But I want to take it right back and find out a little bit more about Mr. Nathan Jess. So what actually got you into music? What was like was it a childhood memory or?
I didn't really have a choice. My family, I was always surrounded by music. Everyone played the piano. So you'd always hear piano playing in the house. The only person you knew who it was with my dad, because he only played What a Friend We Have in Jesus. That's all he knew. So if you heard What a Friend We Have in Jesus, Dad was at the keys. But we used to travel around like churches and mission halls all across Northern Ireland singing, like I think almost every Sunday night. So I did that from the age of 7. So I didn't really have a choice. It was like singing since I can remember.
Man, I think if I was ever in a position where I didn't have a choice, I would be very thankful for that upbringing of being taken around that culture.
Yeah,
and
like
singing.
Northern Ireland Von Trapp family, you know.
Amazing, man.
But my dad was a lay preacher, so we'd have gone places and we'd have sang, and then my dad would have preached. So like I was literally like, my dad was my favorite preacher then, you know. I loved doing it, you know. So it was a lot of fun. I definitely grew out of it at a point. I remember when I turned whatever correct teenage year to be like, I don't want to go singing with my parents, but but it was a great I guess it got me used to just being in front of a room of people and singing songs and stuff, you know. Probably learned more than I even realized, you know, through that whole experience.
It's certainly, I love the community aspect of being around other people and singing congregationally. Something I've really missed over the last 12 months anyway.
Yeah.
With it. And I mean, I didn't grow up in a musical family as such. I got a little Casio keyboard and then started copying the adverts off the telly. So it was like the Hovis advert, which is a Dvorak New World Symphony, and and then they thought, oh, I think he's quite good at that. Let's get him some lessons, and that was it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you actually started more so on keys. It's not the guitar wasn't the first thing you picked up.
No, we had a guitar teacher come to the school and say, we're going to give you some music tests. And I did really well with the ear test, and he said, I'd love to teach you. And I went, cool. So I started getting guitar lessons there, and then I progressed on to, I ended up leaving that school and going to a music school where I got taught by some very, very awesome people for free, which was just amazing.
I always forget that you're like a really good piano player, because I'm like, I can play guitar and keys okay. So my theory is if I change between them often enough, people don't realize my limitations, you know, like before they realize how good I am on guitar, I'm on the piano. So, but I feel like I always see you play guitar, and then there's like one or two events in my life where I've seen you go over to piano and went, oh, why don't you do that more often? But like playing some Rachmaninoff or something, it's like, oh yeah, he can play piano as well.
Yeah, I mean, I studied piano. It was my second instrument eventually, you know. I mean, and you know, you actually went to university and studied music as well, classically trained as well. You know, was it Queen's University? I mean, what made you decide to go from, you know, a lad who was touring around Northern Ireland with his family singing worship to suddenly hitting teenage years? I mean, there was times when I was a teenager when I was like, I can't be bothered with music. I'd rather be out playing soldiers with my mates in the woods, right? And then suddenly going, I think university is what I want to do, and I want to study music. Yeah. So what made you decide that?
I think it's a combination of, well, I was encouraged to go to university. So my family, my dad was a bank manager and then worked in finance loads, and my sister's an accountant. So both had like really good backgrounds and that kind of thing. So my sister had gone to uni and done accountancy, and so I was encouraged to go to uni, but I think the two were put together because I just knew I wanted to do music in some capacity. It's evolved and changed, and I never really necessarily understood where it would end up. I mean, even what I do now is not what I thought I was doing 5 years ago, but I think it was as simple as, well, I'm going to go to university and there's nothing else I want to do. So I don't know what it looks like when I finish the degree, but I'll go study music. So, I mean, apart from probably a brief mid-teenage year when I wanted to be a golfer, that's probably the only diversion from, not that I was anywhere near good enough, just, you know, dreams.
What is it about the Celts? You know, we live probably in one part of the world where the weather is horrendous for golf. I still think it was created for a joke. You know, let's hit a ball around this massive field with a hole that size. You know what I mean? You know, in the worst weather imaginable.
In the pouring rain.
Madness. But it's great fun though. You know, we'll need to get a game, man. But I had a similar experience going to university or music college, and I never really thought about the outcome as such. Although in my own life I had other stuff going on, so like music wasn't my priority. It should have been, and you kind of get wrapped up in that. This is this is the next thing after school. If you have the ability to go to uni, then you should. And so at 18 years old, I was off to Glasgow to study. You know what I mean? Which was, I mean, it was amazing. I mean, the amount of talent in terms of the teaching staff and the students that were there. It was looking back, I really I really didn't realize that I was surrounded by so much good stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The that kind of leads on from my other question, because like you talked on it briefly. Did you ever envision when you were at university the progression, or in terms of songwriter, singer-songwriter, worship leader, worship artist, to songwriting, and now because you produce a lot more now? Did you ever envision that path, or even doing Christian music full time?
No, I mean, probably in a naive sense, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And I've always been very driven. So like, not that it necessarily was then definitely going to work out that way, but I knew that I would give it the best shot. You know, I would knuckle down. And I mean, before I even went to uni, my theory was always take every gig somebody offered me. You know, I think it's one of the biggest advices I give to young artists or songwriters who speak to me. I don't know if culture's changed that much in 10 years, but I think there's a high expectation for this just happens overnight, and I guess that, you know, is just reflected in just how immediate things are to us now. You know, we want something and we get it. It's instant. You know, I order things online and somebody delivers it the next morning. You know, it doesn't make any sense, but my biggest advice is always literally take every gig anybody offers you in a hole in the hedge somewhere. It's bad for anyone from Northern Ireland listening, from Cullybackey. That's my like go-to. Cullybackey is just like a very middle of nowhere place, but I just took every gig in anywhere for the experience, for the exposure, for I was just hungry to do it. I didn't care if there was 5 or 500 people there. I just wanted to get out and play my songs and see how people responded to them. So my biggest thing is always just take everything. And I guess before uni, I was already doing that. I think what was actually incredible about the experience at uni is, and I don't live with regrets, but I wasn't super studious at uni, and I do wish, like, you know, if I did it again, I'd be like, okay, Nathan, give this a better shot. But what actually I got my degree, and what actually the experience of uni did for me was, it was almost like 3 years to really go at the music when you didn't need to rely on the money, if you know what I mean, or needed to support yourself or whatever. So like, it was at uni that I first travelled to go do a gig somewhere. I went and supported Brenton Brown in Wales, you know, for a night, and that was like the first time someone actually booked me to go sing in a different country and all that kind of stuff. So at uni, I just took the opportunity of the freedom of the lifestyle, even, you know, less so than even necessarily what I was studying. And I'm not endorsing that, you know, knuckle down on your degree, but I was just able to basically almost ramp everything up. So by the time I got to the end of uni, I was in a position to go. I had a part-time job for a few months still after that, a couple of days a week, but I was pretty much able to just launch myself into it, and had enough work basically coming to be fulfilling my time with it. So the whole time, it's not that I necessarily knew what it was going to look like, and it's evolved and changed. I kind of did that then for about 10 years of traveling quite a lot, ever increasing amount of traveling and doing all that. And then, it's kind of transitioned again the last couple of years. But
I totally identify with the graft, you know, in the grind.
Yeah.
And it's a very slow grind here, especially within the Christian singer-songwriter genre. It is that, I mean, it does happen, but it's in Scotland, we're quite isolated. There's not a lot of people here, you know what I mean? It's the same in Northern Ireland compared to, say, like London, where there's like 10 million people, you know. gigs everywhere. You know, you can literally find any kind of music there. It's so metropolitan. You know what I mean? So, but I remember having that hunger as well, and I once turned up and did a gig at the folk club in Leith with my mate. We took the PA there, set the PA up. I did the gig for my mate, and then we took it down and went home with a bag of chips, you know.
Yeah.
But it was just because you were playing live, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was just something about playing songs that you'd spent quite a lot of time and effort, you know. I don't say that word lightly, you know, effort into pouring yourself into this song.
Yeah.
And then just sharing that with somebody who was willing to listen. It's like a covenant, you know what I mean? It's like this sacred agreement where, you know, I'm going to share this message with you, I'm going to receive it, and then together we're going to have this experience, which is just wonderful, you know.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to describe what that's like. And even when you're going through the graft, I don't think I have the energy to do that anymore. Like just you know, travel to exotic places like Manchester. Well, back then, you know, a 1.5 hour trip to Manchester was really exotic, and you know, I love Manchester and going there, but doing that 5 times a week in different parts of the country, logistically, I've honestly I've learned some very hard lessons, but
I'm definitely healthier than I've ever been. I mean, I loved the traveling side of it. I generally love traveling, and my wife would be less keen. So I really enjoyed. I mean, what a way to see the world, you know, when fulfilling like this burning calling within you to go lead people in worship and write songs, but getting to like see the world as you do it. Like, very, very, very blessed to have done it. But I'm healthier now. I mean, I don't know if it's spending so many flights on circulated air and stuff, but I see a dramatic difference in my immune system. I would have got at least once a year or twice a year, I'd got a thing that would have had me in bed for a week, and I'd feel it coming on. And now when I get to see him, if I maybe pick up a bug and notice myself like fighting something, you know, it's almost like a week later and go, why did I not end up in bed? It's like, oh, you've actually got an immune system again, that, you know, healthy sleeping patterns and just a bit of a more normal lifestyle. So
yeah, and it does take its toll being on the road a lot. I mean, some people make it work really, really well. I guess the hardest part for me was the adjustment between home life and being on the road, because I would come back exhausted, man. You know, absolutely knackered. You know, just completely shattered, and it took a while for me to recover. You know, and in my 20s, that wasn't an issue as much as it would be now. I mean, I'm 40 now, like so.
And it's the balance of walking back in. So, I mean, I always felt like I just lived in a perpetual state of jet lag. You know, I don't think I was ever grounded in a certain time zone, but it's like the balance of coming home shattered from all the travel and whatever, but needing to immediately turn on to, you know, a family. I've got a wife and 2 kids here. I can't be like, oh, I'm really tired. It's like, yeah, well, you haven't been here for 2 weeks. So there's no like grace period then. It's like, you're dad again here, you know? So it's like, that was all really difficult. And yeah, it's about finding your balances, right? And realizing what you're capable of and sticking to that. So had to learn the hard way sometimes, but
absolutely, man. A friend told me that the first ministry's at home, you know, from the fireplace 100%. Out, they say. And good communication with my lovely wife has definitely been our saving grace. So as long as we're all right with it together. My wife was, I mean, she still is, just incredible at supporting in ministry. And for me, before I became more prominent as a worship leader, I did the singer-songwriter and shared my testimony and travelled everywhere and did that, you know. And my wife was like, go give him heaven, you know, and you know, go share the gospel. And so like her ministry was very much looking after the household while I was away. In fact, she looked after it when I was there as well. And then and then when and then I would go and then she'd do my thing and then we'd come back. But for, you know, I guess for me, I didn't have healthy boundaries, and sometimes I would just travel and travel and travel and come back,
Yeah.
not have enough rest or have enough input at home and then travel. Probably my biggest regret, and I'm actually so thankful for the last 13, 14 months of being at home and
Yeah.
getting to invest so
So
much.
am I.
You know what I mean? It's been good.
But it's the battle that goes on in, I think, any self-employed person's head, isn't it? Where it's like, you don't know that it's going to be there next month. And it tends to come like that. You could have nothing for a month and then 20 buses the next month. And it's like feeling the need to say yes because you don't know what's going to be there next time. But you do just have to take what you can healthily do and trust that it's going to be there again. So it's always hard. It's always hard.
Did you ever find yourself being a yes man? Because I am, I hold my hand up to that and say, I have been a yes man more often than I care to admit, to the point that it was really unhealthy, and I would, I would cause myself immeasurable stress. Probably affected my mental health, which stress is, but try and push through it and get myself into a right flat. Have you ever had the experience of that? And if you did, how did you manage to pull it back?
I think the second, for years, yes, but I think when I realized that saying no to the right stuff meant doing the other stuff really well, and like the energy that came from actually just getting to do these 3 projects to the best of my ability instead of these 5 projects half-heartedly, then I not enjoyed saying no to people. It's not that I want to say no, but realized the freedom in that was letting me actually properly say yes to the other stuff. And that, so in work, yes, but that's even realizing, okay, by saying no to this is like meaning I am getting to take my kids away to the park on Saturday or whatever, it's all aspects, I suppose.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. And another friend said to me once, when you're saying no to one thing, you have to realize that you're saying yes to something else,
Yeah.
So it's not like nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I feel that way as well. I feel almost guilty for saying, oh no, I really want to, or I really, because my heart is in serving. I know yours is as well, and I would love to be able to be available and help people out and stuff like that. But like at the moment, there's a lot of amazing stuff going on. But if I'd said yes to everything that came in over the last month, and there's a few wee things which I would have loved to have been involved in just as favors and stuff like that, I wouldn't be able to apply myself to stuff that's really quite important.
Yeah.
That's great advice, Nathan. So you went from, well, I heard you. I can't remember exactly where I heard you. I'm trying to remember who told me about you, but I remember catching your song, "I Am Redeemed."
Was it a recording or in person?
It was a recording. It was the original. It was the original one, right? Which I still listen to, by the way.
I don't even know what the original one is because there ended up being like 4 or 5 versions of that song.
Well, it's the original to me, right? It's my original, right? So it was it wasn't the one on your album, which was the Dan Wheeler production, which is awesome. But it was the one that I think you recorded with your friend. Yep.
So that's 2 before that, strangely.
Right.
But
so
that is the original, yeah.
So I listened to that song. Now I'm not an emotional guy, or maybe I just hide it really well, right? I grew up in an environment where people just didn't talk about emotions, or if you expressed them, you were basically told to be quiet. Yeah. And just a cultural thing.
Yeah.
But I wept my eyes and bawled my eyes out when I heard that song, right? Absolutely. And I can count on one hand the number of songs that have made me do that. And it was incredibly powerful, incredibly emotive, and I was hanging on every word. It was beautifully played, beautifully produced. So tell us the story behind "I Am Redeemed."
It's a funny song because I guess it holds a lot for me. It's a song that I wouldn't necessarily play now per se. I haven't. It's funny actually because I think you're one of the only people always mentions it to me. to many people, probably many people haven't even heard it. It's like one of the first things I would have put out. But I actually was doing an event for Tear Fund at Easter there, and they asked me to sing I Am Redeemed. And I was like, I think I even said, like, I've not played that in 10 years, you know. But then I was actually, that'll be fun. Why not? So I was playing it and really enjoyed playing it. But it holds a lot because it's the first time I wrote a song that was, you know, congregational, if you will. And I didn't set out to do that. But realized I've actually written a song here because I was taking all those gigs, you know, going back to what we were saying, I was like trying to do everything I could. But on one hand, I was writing very melancholy, you know, Damien Rice, Glenn Hansard inspired, depressing Irish singer-songwriter type
beautiful
songs.
stuff, man.
Yeah.
I love that stuff, man. That's not depressing. That is music of the heart, man.
That's like where all my influences were. So on one hand, I was writing all that kind of stuff and getting up and like performing those songs at different events. But then I was also getting booked to lead worship. But I'd never, like, it's one of, like, looking back, you go, why wouldn't it cross your mind? But I would say it probably doesn't cross a lot of people's mind who lead worship a lot and maybe even do a bit of songwriting, that those things can live together. Like, I could actually write a song that I get up and use when I lead worship. Simple and as elementary as that sounds, I was literally knee deep in both worlds and there was no crossover, you know. So I'm Redeemed is the first song I wrote. It was for a film in France. So really strangely, just a relational link through a friend of ours that we both know, Paul McNeely, and they needed a song for a certain like finishing part of the song. It was a Christian film. I've actually got the DVD somewhere, and I did put it in once, but I haven't a clue what's happening in it because it's all in French. So, but I'm sure it's a great story.
We'll need to get Marvan over for just
a translator. But randomly wrote that song, and the reason that I even recorded it in that original version that you've heard was to send off to them, and they loved it and they used it and all that kind of stuff. But then it was like this thing where it's like, I think it was Paul even pointed out to me, you know, that's a worship song. Because I guess at the time we'd had a few conversations with a couple of labels and stuff, but weren't necessarily looking for, you know, the depressing Damien Rice thing. But it's not that I pivoted to it, but I realized, hang on, like it was one of those fiery moments. Like I still remember the feeling of writing my first song. I can see even like, I can even feel what the lighting was like in the room in my parents' old house when I wrote a song called Following This Light. Terrible song, like 14-year-old for a band at school. But I remember the feeling of like, this didn't exist an hour ago and now it does. And I made it. And like coming to grips with like the excitement of that. And it was the same when it was another pivotal moment when I did that with a song that I then got to get up and lead worship with and hear other people in a room sing it back, you know. That was kind of amazing. So it's kind of special to me for that respect. And then it's also the song that Kingsway, what would become Integrity Music, heard me play as I supported Casting Crowns at a gig in Belfast and started a whole relationship and conversation there about releasing music with them, which turned into doing 2 records together, which turned into traveling and playing them. And so at the heart of that was a song that, you know, at the birthplace of loads of that was this song that kind of opened up all those doors. So it's pretty special.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear that, man. And the thing that really got me was just how real it is. You know what I mean? So I think I must have quoted the lyrics to, I can't even remember how many people. So like, you know, to just have a conversation with Jesus, you know what I mean? And say, you know, in the day you were beaten, it never crossed your mind that I wasn't worth dying for. You know? I mean, I mean, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, you know what I mean? And I mean, the whole song is so emotive and personal and it's just such a beautiful reflection of worship and adoration of our Savior. And I just want to thank you for such an incredible. So it inspired me, you know what I mean? Because like I was checking you out on MySpace and all that, and it was just I absolutely love
Thank
the
you.
song, and
I love
the
that.
the two versions that I know. I absolutely love it. You have released a couple of albums since I've met you. I mean, the first one that you did with Integrity, which was Love Stands Forever. Yep. We actually wrote a song for, which was "Come Lord
right, yeah.
Jesus Quickly Come," which was at our mutual friends, Mr. Paul McNeely.
Mm-hmm.
We were
He
doing
comes
like
up in a lot of stories.
he does. He gets a bit. He's a wonderful chap. But we were doing like a wee video thing with Chris McClarney and Brian Houston, two wonderful chaps, and we just had like a bit of time to maybe write.
Yeah.
And you said, I've got an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, all right, let's have a wee bash at this. It was one of the first collaborations I'd ever been involved in.
Yeah.
And I think in 2 hours we managed to write a wee song, didn't we?
Yeah. We recorded it that night even, I think. I don't know if I've ever seen that video. I don't know if that video ever made it to the light of day, but
it'll be there somewhere.
It's there somewhere in
legacy.
in the archives. Yeah. But yeah, that song then went on the record. And I don't know if you realise, but that's a song that I would have played live tons. Like I did touring looked very different a lot of the time, but especially in further afield tours, I would have got booked to come and be a support or whatever, but that was like minimal budget, so it was just me on my own. And I suppose we're both pretty similar in that way. We're do different band things, but would have done a lot of touring, just me and a guitar, you know. That we'd both have done that. And that song just translates really well. In whatever way I play or sing, that song always just worked really well with just me and a guitar in that environment. So like that was, if it was a 4 or 5 song set, that song was probably in there, you know. So I've played that live so many times.
And whenever we were in town together, we got to.
That's right, yeah.
So it was Phil Wickham. Yeah, we did it for Phil Wickham when he was in town, and Matt Redman as well. I think when he was in Edinburgh as well. Yeah. And what was it? Was it Switchfoot and Gunga? Did we do it there, or was it, or were we just hanging out there? I think we were just hanging out, weren't we?
Don't remember. Yeah,
being fanboys, but so like I mean, a couple I wanted to just talk a little bit about collaborative writing, right? Because I think I can honestly say you're the hardest working songwriter I know. To be fair to my other songwriting friends, I don't know how hard they work, but they produce amazing songs, so they're probably just like us, because we're all of a similar ilk and we suffer, you know. And I just, you know, so that time when we wrote "Come Lord Jesus Quickly Come," we managed to turn it around pretty quickly. Yeah. And be pretty happy with it. I don't think there was any edits to it, you know, or any reviews. That was the days before Zooms and stuff like that. Do you find that, I mean, I don't know about you, but I found that 2 hour songwrites tend to be a bit quick for me to get a song done and dusted from maybe a couple of a word or a line or a musical idea. For me, I think it needs to be attended to, a little bit massaged. It might be different from other people. I know some songwriters are just amazing at producing, and there's different personalities. Chrissy Noddoff's got a wonderful book that speaks about that. But what's your opinion on that? Do you think? Yeah, I would just like to get your insight on that.
I think like many things with songwriting is like there just is no set way, you know, like that song's written in 2 hours and is on an album, which also has a song on it called Burning Heart that I wrote with a guy called Nick Herbert, who I've actually been working a lot with recently, that I think was a few sessions over a period of 2 years, you know, living side by side on the same record. You know, I just don't think there's a rule. I think it's just sometimes how the song comes. Like I still find myself in rooms and 2 hours later it's like, wow. And it just feels like a total download of here's a song that just feels done, just feels like it says everything. But I think more often than not, the fun bit can be the initial inspiration and chasing like the excitement of an idea, but actually there's like 10 times more work in grafting it out. I think that's the balance I really live with. It's that whole idea of 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, where it's like you get the idea. It's always funny. People have that idea of songwriters, right? Or artists generally, that we just sort of float around the world during the day and like hear little ideas and there we go, there's our work done for the day. But it's the graft of making that work. You know, it's like I've always took loads from Matt Redman as he talks about, you know, if you're serious about this, you know, you need to like be very diligent in the time that you set aside. It's not about, do I feel like doing that? It's going, I'm free 9 to 5 on Tuesday, so that's when I have to finish that song. And like getting yourself to a place where you can be creative. It's not that you're then taking that out of it, but you can be creative in a structured environment, or even embrace limitations. Like limitations are some of the most creative things you can do. Like budget is often like the best creative tool, you know, like I have to do it within this area, or you know, or in this case I have to do it in this time frame or whatever. I think that stuff's really positive. I even love that about worship music, where it's like, you know, there are set limitations here. You know, I can't expect a congregation full of, you know, varied people to sing from this note to this note or sing a melody that does this. So I think there's like, I love being creative within a set of limitations. So I don't even remember what your original question was, but I know I'm not there anymore.
It's all very good, man. And I agree. There are no rules to songwriting apart from the rules that you create for the song that you're creating, you know what I mean? And in terms of writing hymn of the day and meter and, you know, writing for a congregation, I think that you have responsibilities, because you could write something for the like the best and worst congregational song, in my opinion, right, is the Star Spangled Banner, right? I'm probably going to get shot for this, but it is an incredible song.
Stunning song.
Absolutely
Stunning song.
Tremendous, right? So
and hear me on this, right? But go find the Gaither vocal band. You know, I'm not a Southern gospel here.
Right.
Go find them with David Phelps and singing that, and it's like, wow. Anyway, sorry. Yeah.
Great. No. I'm going to be checking that out, man. And but like, it is an incredible song, right?
Yeah.
Melodically, I mean, that's why it's so beautifully done a cappella as well, you know?
Yeah.
Melodically.
That's the test of how good it is.
Yeah. Lyrically, it is just phenomenal. Absolutely amazing. But in terms of congregationally, you know, because it's got such a high belt at the end as well. I mean, not everybody can do it. And when it's done by a great singer, it's unbelievable. I mean, it's just very inspiring and it's very moving, you know, and emotive. It's just wonderful. Can't say enough about it. But I guess like for me, I would use it as a reference on how to maybe not write for your general church congregation because of the range of the notes. So I think there's a, you know, the unwritten rule of you don't really want to go higher than a tenth or a ninth, you know, like in terms of an octave and stuff like that, because somebody once said to me, essentially you have to write for the people that aren't confident about singing, you know what I mean, because they want to worship as well. Yeah, and that's always been a good thing. So there can be rules within songwriting, and but you know, like I said to my daughter, she wrote her first song the other week. You know, and she's 8 years old. She says, "Dad, I wrote a song about lockdown, which is just amazing."
Wow!
And I was because it's like she's just processing, you know, her experience and stuff like that. It was just lovely. We had to relook at it, and a lot of it didn't make sense. And you know what I mean. And but she'd written it down with a green pencil on a bit of paper. And I was just like, this is absolutely amazing, because she's just taking the time to create and do stuff. Now, it might not make sense to anybody else, but she's created something and it means something to her. And at the end of the day, that's what's important, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just wonderful stuff. And
I always tell songwriters that, like, your mindset has to be with anything, that all of these songs matter, whether it's just for you to process something, or because that's actually a freedom to it. Because so as someone writing songs every day, and I think they talk in Nashville, you got to write 100 songs to get 10 cuts to get one hit, or like as many songs float out the river in a day that don't meet the light of day. I think I found it initially when I was flooding myself into writing so much, I found it a little depressing to think the odds are this doesn't see the light of day, and that can put you off until you are comfortable with the fact that if it's just for me to externally process my own thoughts right now, yes, in a world of needing to make some sort of income from this and all that there, I need X amount to happen, whatever, but when you can be satisfied that you're just processing yourself, that a really beautiful picture of it is a guy, pastor in Canada, actually told me about this. Can't remember where he heard it, but he just likened it to boats. So like from like the world's biggest cruise liner that maybe travels all over the place and carries hundreds or thousands of people on it is your 10,000 Reasons, or this big song that like beautifully connects the church all over the world, and that we all know. I think there's something beautiful about the fact that we can walk into churches all over the place and hear songs we know, and there's something unifying about that. But there's those big songs, but even like the little tiny boats that somebody just needs to go out and collect fish on to eat that night, it still has to be fit for purpose. It still can't have holes in it and sink, like no matter how big or small it is, it still has to be crafted well and given care and attention, if that's just for you or if that's for like hundreds of people. I thought that was a really beautiful way to think about it.
That's lovely, man. Really, really good. So let me ask you, as we're coming to the sort of tail end of the episode, man, for all those aspiring songwriters out there, could you give us your top 5 tips or top 5 do's and don'ts? Like if you were to speak to a relatively young Nathan Jess, although you are quite young now, what would be what would be your top 5 tips for singers and songwriters out there when they're coming to the table to write songs?
Okay, good question. My favorite thing right now, there's this book called, what's the book called? The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Don't know if you know that book, but she says that writing is more about the spiritual practice of writing things down than thinking things up. I just love that. Like if we were talking earlier about inspiration and then like the diligence to go craft it, it's like it's way easier to sit down on 9 to 5 on Tuesday when you've got that time with all these things, that when you felt an emotion or when you were in a moment or when something moved you, that you just scribbled that down and then you develop on that, then sit and going, okay, what will I write about? Because that's there's too much freedom in that. Like it's hard to know where to start there. So I love that idea. Like I think as a songwriter, like my biggest responsibility maybe in general life before I come to crafting it is being very open and willing to always respond to things that move me, or emotions that I feel. Like the best songs I write, the most universal songs I write will be the most personal songs, So like, never being willing to let go of something, even, and I'm not trying to push the idea of the airy-fairy songwriter, but it has meant me getting out of bed before because I can't get past a line in my head and going and scribbling it down, so that when I have the time to sit down and work on a song, I'm working on this thing that I wrote down in a moment instead of just trying to think something up on the spot. So I think that's a really cool quote. That's a great one. 5, right? So number 2.
or three,
Or
because
three. Three if they're
there's
long.
there's a lot there's a lot of great stuff in that, man, and I totally agree. Like, write it down, because I've got a brain like Swiss cheese, and if I don't, I'll be sitting there trying to figure out what I thought about 2 days ago when I should have really wrote it down. I was too lazy though, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
So a few more, a couple more, whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I always love to encourage. So if you don't do it, I always love to encourage co-writing. I mean, when I started writing, certainly a lot of people in the starting place, you just sit and write songs in your bedroom, and I find it very intimidating to go and sit with other people. But when you realize that you get to add their strengths to the parts in the song that you struggle with, or just realize that other people's ideas are better than yours, you know, a lot of the time, and that you can end up with something better. I would really encourage writers to, like, the only way that happens is to be very proactive. And I think the most said thing between songwriters is we should write a song sometime, and then 6 months later we should write a song sometime, and then a year later we should write a song sometime. Put it in the diary. I think that comes from both sides, even just writing on your own and co-write. That is why I love co-writing, because you have to show up. It's in the diary, and I can't just decide at 10 a.m. when it's scheduled that I don't feel like it. You know, I have to log into the Zoom call, or I'm away somewhere else writing. So, like, it makes you do it. But do that for co-writing. Like, find people that maybe you're a lyric person and they're really good at melodies, and, like, schedule time and build relationships. If it doesn't work with a certain person, it's fine. You know, find other people, but you know, be really deliberate about doing that. Co-writing is awesome, especially when you look through CCLI and realize, like, none of these songs in the worship scene are written by one person. It's just not.
It's community, isn't it?
It's community, yeah, exactly.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. So co-writing's big, and I think why that matters, this whole schedule thing, is, like, for me and like many things, like, I look at my garden, realize there's so much work needed to get it under control because I haven't done it for a while. And you look at the size of the big task and never start it, but there's nothing like starting. There's nothing like just doing it. Like, you could teach on songwriting all day long, but there's nothing like just writing songs and realizing and learning how to do things better. You know, learn by doing, I think. I always have that little saying, like, there's nothing like starting. Any task in life, when you look at it, there's just nothing like just getting your head into it, and all of a sudden you're excited on it and you're going on it.
That's good, man. And do you think, in terms of like as you said, like, at the beginning, like, your first point, which was to just sort of write it down and keep note and stuff like that. I'm one of the bits of advice I give if somebody was looking for a songwriting tip would be to make sure you've got enough ingredients to make dinner. You know what I mean? Which is so, like, whether you're reading or getting inspiration, if you come to the table with nothing, you're not going to be able to cook anything. You know what I mean? So, like, there's I get this question a lot. Do you start by writing a melody? Do you start with a phrase or a word or anything like that? What do you think? Do you think there's one's better than the other? What do you think?
I think, and that's probably another great tip, is, like, variety really helps. Like, stimulating your brain from a different direction really helps. So, like, I would deliberately have many ways that I do that I start from, because it's just, like, always approaching the puzzle from a different starting point is going to give, like, a different outcome. So, and I guess that's, like, learn what those things are for you and then know to do them. So, like, I'll, even as simple as moving from guitar to piano, and, like, I probably write more melodically based songs on piano because my melodies will end up following parts that I'm writing within the chords. But then equally, like, I just love having loads of different starting points. I'll write songs because I'll get inspired from a piano part I write, from a little guitar riff I write, which quite often my melodies quite often come out of what those actual instrumental parts are doing. But I'll write loads of songs from, Like I've almost always scribbling things down in sermons. I'm always inspired by a thematic idea, or like I'll write out some lyrics that I don't know what the melody would be for yet. I also love, recently I've been doing it loads for just like writing from titles, like just looking for like really cool titles, or like it sounds like something that wouldn't give you a broad picture of what a whole song could be, but I've done a bunch of writes recently where someone's gone, I've just got this, you know, really interesting title. Like what if it was just called Everyday Miracles? But like when you just get like an interesting title, to me, my brain just goes, you know, and you start to get a glimpse of what that whole thing could be. So for me, that's actually the good thing. It's like deliberately starting from different places, you know, rather than just having I normally start lyrics or melody or whatever.
It's good to have an anchor as well, isn't it? So like if it is a title, or I mean, I was looking through a couple of websites the other day that they actually have somebody's taken the time to make a website with a list of all the choruses, just the first line of the refrains and the choruses from pretty much every congregational song they could find. Right. You know, so if it's like then sings my soul, that would be one of them, or bless the Lord, oh my soul, or just I think of another one, blessed be the name of the Lord. You know what I mean? Just these choruses and stuff like that, and you could read through these and then just start singing, and it's all right to be inspired by other people as well, you know, because I mean it's been happening since year dot. You know what I mean? You
can't not do it if you think you're not doing it. Have you ever read that book, Steal Like an Artist?
I think you told me about it, but I haven't actually read it. Good.
But it's that whole idea, there's nothing new under the sun, you know, regardless of what you think, subconsciously you're being inspired by all the music you love. Nick Herbert has a really nice term for it. It's like we're all selective collectors. So we're all collecting influences from the things we love, and that's always going to flow into like whatever you're sort of just putting together, a mishmash of influences of all the things you love somehow. So
amazing. So just very briefly, because we're running out of time. So say if our listeners have a song and they've got a song and they love it, whether it's to just sing it in their church, which is great, or they want to take it a little bit further and present it to the world and stuff like that. I mean, I remember when I was just first starting out, it was a case of buying blank CDs and burning them off one at a time in my laptop, you know, back in the day, and then just handing them out at gigs and stuff like that. But the world's changed now, you know. You can stick them up on
the days.
Yeah, you can stick them online and stuff like that. Is there or maybe you wanted to get some more work done because you're a producer as well, you know what I mean? So what advice would you give to people who have a song? Maybe it's they're a very gifted songwriter, but musically they don't feel confident enough to record it themselves. What advice would you give to them to take it to the next step?
Sometimes that's where, I mean, if you're someone who has that ability, or you're an instrument, I mean, you don't even really need to have a great understanding. There's entry level for everyone. So if you can play the keyboard and you've got a computer, like get GarageBand or get whatever, and like, I've probably retrospectively now, somewhere down the line, watch a lot of YouTube videos trying to see what other people do and how they get certain sounds. But it all started by just like having a simple setup where I was just singing my own songs in and then playing around with them and being experimental. But it's probably where co-writing comes in too, where you would get a lot of co-writers who are able to do that side of thing. I mean, that would be, in my world, that would be partly what I'm seen as. Like in most writes I'm in, I'm also the guy who's going to deliver the demo after it, if you know what I mean, where you're a producer-writer type scenario. So if you've got a bunch of songs that you feel really good about, or half-baked ideas even, and you're thinking of collaborating with someone, like maybe collaborate with someone who has the means and tools to do that. And I mean, I even love that side of writing where that's not just like using someone for their recording, you know. Sometimes it's really great to bring all that into the writing process, because you will then, as a track maybe builds, or as you lay a bit of a foundation for what the song might look like, it invokes different melodies, or you have different ideas about where the song goes, that the music can kind of help shape that. I was actually listening to a podcast yesterday, but they were interviewing Jonathan Ogden, and he was basically talking about how he struggles to separate the production and arranging and songwriting of it, because he does all that, and that's all like one thing to him, as much as is the songwriting is building the track at the same time and seeing how it evolves on all fronts, so maybe that's a great way for someone like that to get into having a recorded part of it, is to actually maybe start to write and collaborate with someone who can do that as well.
Yeah, building your network and just having fun with it, man. Because it as much of it as it can be a grind, I don't regret it at all, man. I absolutely love it. I think it's a wonderful way to worship. It's a wonderful way to serve. It's a wonderful way to process, and it's I mean, I love what I have this awesome privilege of being able to write and serve God and doing that, and also being collaborative. Like a friend of mine actually said to me once, if you're going into a co-write, be careful that how precious you are taking something into a co-write as well, because it's if you're doing something collaboratively, it's allowing people the space and the freedom to bring something to the table, which might mean deconstructing something that you've got. And if you're incredibly precious over it, it can be a bit of a struggle to move forward with that. So it's allowing their gifts and the Holy Spirit to move in them with their gifts as well. And that was because as much as I hate to admit it, I can be quite a big control freak coming from a place where I did everything myself, so it was I'd written a song which was very personal, and then suddenly I'm in a co-write and it's like, I want to write this, and then somebody says, well, I think this is stronger, and I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's
the biggest learning process of co-writing, is not being precious. And I think you realize that more times than not, it's even just being willing to chase the idea, whether you think it's good or not, chase it and see where it goes. You never know. But yeah, you can't be precious. You have to care enough not to care, actually, if you know what I mean.
Let go of the rope. Yeah. I can't remember who wrote this, but somebody said all your songs deserve to be finished, even the bad ones. I can't remember who wrote that or said that, but it's so true. And I guess the last nugget of wisdom that I always share with people, which came from a conversation with Andrew Peterson last year, was I spent so much time trying to create an environment to write that I never actually got any writing done.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Because it's lovely having some nice stuff and the ability to make noises and drum and bass beats, which I'll never do. But it's I don't actually get round to writing and stuff like that. Do you think because I think J.K. Rowling actually said all you need is a book and a pen.
Yeah,
which is very, very true. And guitars are very easy to carry around, aren't they? You know what I mean? So it's
like what I was saying. There's nothing like starting. There's nothing like just doing it.
It's great, man.
I've spent too long at different times in my life just like watching YouTube videos about gear instead of like with what I have, just making a song.
Yeah, totally. Was it Jack White said you want to be a songwriter, musician, etc. Sell your PlayStation. You know what I mean? Which is it's so true, man. You know what I mean? So true. Eliminate distraction. Okay, Nathan, it's been so good to talk to you, man. I mean, just so much in there. Wonderful, lovely to learn more about you, man. I absolutely love you, man. As a brother, as a man, as a totally love and respect you as a singer, songwriter, worship leader, and as a musician. So I like if people can check and find out all your stuff on online and on your website. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, I don't think I have a website anymore. I think I retired that. But
really?
Nathan, just Nathan Jess on Instagram and all that kind of stuff. Facebook.
Nathan Jess, no worries, man. And it's all on Spotify and Apple Music and all that stuff as well, isn't it? Yeah, great. And that's wonderful stuff, man.
Thanks so much for asking me. I'm a big fan. So.
But I did say that. Blushing. But I'm looking forward to getting back over to the lovely Northern Ireland so we can write some
You're
more.
always welcome.
Oh, I'm always very welcome when I'm there, and it's we've got a song that we wrote coming out on the new Celtic Worship album, which
I'm very excited about.
Yeah, which we co-wrote with the wonderful Benji Cowart. And so that'll be one to look out for. And we co-wrote a few of the tracks on the old Perfect Father EP, so people can check them out as well. But thank you so much, Nathan. And
thank you.
Have a blessed day, and I'm sure I'll catch up with you soon. But thanks for blessing me and the community with your time, mate. Man, I really, really enjoyed that. Always seem to find the gold when I'm chatting to my brother Nathan. If you'd like to keep up to date with what Nathan is up to, you can find him on various social media platforms. Go give him a follow. And make sure you check out his amazing music, which is available on Spotify, Apple Music, and all other streaming services. If you'd like to listen to the song co-written by myself, Nathan Jess, and Michael Farron, you can find it on my new EP, Oh Perfect Father, which is also available on Spotify, Apple Music, etc. Just search Steph Macleod, No Other God, and be sure to follow my profile for any updates and new music releases. Thank you so much for tuning in today. This is Steph Macleod, signing off until next time. God bless.